Imagine a child born today in a quiet hospital room, unaware that one simple number will shape the world they grow up in. That number is the total fertility rate, sometimes called TFR, and its mysterious threshold, the so-called magic number, is 2.1. Demographers use the total fertility rate to describe how many children, on average, each woman in a society has over her lifetime. If that number stays around 2.1, a population roughly replaces itself, but if it falls lower for long enough, the population eventually shrinks. To understand why this matters, step back into the pre-modern world, when families were large, deaths were common, and the future was always uncertain. In villages and early cities, parents had many children because disease, hunger, and war claimed so many young lives before adulthood. High fertility and high mortality moved together, and society survived only because each generation had more births than the previous one. This pattern slowly shifted as the modern age arrived, bringing cleaner water, better farming, and the first public health measures. As vaccines spread and sanitation improved in the 19th century, deaths began to fall, especially among infants and children. But social habits lagged behind, so families kept having many children, and populations surged, filling new factories and growing cities. By the early 20th century, industrial nations already felt the pressure of crowded housing, rising costs, and changing ideas about family life. Then, after the devastation of the Second World War, something dramatic happened in North America, Europe, Australia, and beyond. Soldiers returned, economies grew, suburbs spread, and birth rates rose sharply in the famous post-war baby boom. For a brief moment, the total fertility rate in many rich countries climbed well above the replacement level of 2.1. Yet prosperity carried hidden seeds of change. Because education expanded, women entered paid work, and reliable birth control became widely available. In the 1960s and 70s, couples in many countries began choosing smaller families, often just one or two children. Urban life made each child more expensive, in time, money, and attention, and children shifted from economic assets to emotional investments. As a result, birth rates fell, first toward 2.1, then below it, especially in Western Europe and parts of East Asia. Japan became a striking example, moving from large families in the 1950s to fewer births, to a total fertility rate below replacement. By the late 20th century, demographers treated 2.1 as a kind of demographic border between growing and eventually shrinking populations. The exact number is slightly higher than 2 because some children die before having children, and some people never become parents. As this idea spread, more countries crossed that invisible line, including Italy, Spain, South Korea, and later even China's big cities. Meanwhile, in much of sub-Saharan Africa and parts of South Asia, fertility remained high, and populations continued to expand rapidly. By the early 21st century, global fertility had fallen to around half of what it had been in the mid-20th century. This quiet revolution triggered a new problem in low-fertility countries, not overpopulation, but aging and eventually potential decline. Age pyramids, once wide at the base, began to narrow as births fell, while the top swelled with growing numbers of older people. Fewer workers supported more retirees, straining pension systems, healthcare budgets, and the social promises built in the boom years. Governments responded with policies to encourage births, offering child allowances, paid leave, and subsidized childcare in countries like France and Sweden. Elsewhere, leaders tried more dramatic engineering, as in Singapore, which once urged couples to stop at 2, then begged them to have more. China took this to an extreme, enforcing the one-child policy for decades before abruptly switching to 2 and then 3 children. Yet culture proves stubborn, and in many rich societies, even generous incentives have not pushed fertility back to 2.1. Ideas about work, gender equality, housing, and personal freedom now shape how many children people want, often more than money does. Looking ahead, countries face hard choices, from opening doors to immigration, to raising retirement ages, to investing in automation and care. In this world, the line between above and below 2.1 becomes not just a statistic, but a political and emotional fault line. Today, the total fertility rate is a mirror, reflecting our hopes, our fears, and the trade-offs we accept about work, family, and aging. And that child born today will grow up in a century defined by this quiet number, as nations ask, who will be here tomorrow?